Hebrews, Hebrews, Hebrews. This is Prophets of Awakening this hour. Israelites Advanced Bible Study on Tuesday night, the 10th of September 2024. Okay, I'll be reading out of the book of Jasher, chapters 20 and 21. You can go to our YouTube channel, the Prophets of Awakening. We have over 1,000 videos that you can look at and check them out and examine them. These videos will lead you into the truth of the Holy Scriptures. And if you like what you are hearing and receiving, I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It would be greatly appreciated. Okay? And we have our cash out at the bottom of the screen in case you want to support the channel. And that too will be appreciated. Okay, our hours of operation are Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 7 to 9 Central Time. And then we come back on Friday nights on Clubhouse from 7 to 9 Central Time. That's on Clubhouse. It's on our channel is, the name of the room is Non-Messianic Conversations. And then we have 2 Shabbat classes on the Sabbath, one in the morning from 10 to 12 a.m. Central Time. Then we close out the Shabbat for about an hour from 6 to 7 in the evenings Central Time. Okay, so with that being said, for those that don't know, this is a non-Messianic channel. We deal with the Tanakh, so-called Book of Remembrance, which is the Old Testament, and we deal with the Torah, the first 5 books of the Old Testament that was given to Moses by our Redeemer and our Savior, the Lord of Hosts. Shalom and welcome to this channel, and welcome to our Advanced Bible Study, our Israelite Advanced Bible Study. So with that being said, we're going to do a normal, which is a moment of silence, prayer. We read the Psalms. We have some current events, some need to know information. Then we go into some Q&A, and then we go into our topic, which is reading out the book of Jasher, chapter 20 and 21. This moment of silence is for our Creator and our Redeemer and all that they're doing to bring about our prophesied deliverance in these last days. O Lord, righteousness and uprightness, belonging unto thee. Therefore, we come before thee at this hour, seeking thy face, looking for righteousness and uprightness, that we may walk before thee as thy servants David and Solomon and Samuel and Hezekiah did. For we desire to walk after thee, O Lord, keep your commandments, your testimony, and your statutes with all our heart and soul, perform the words of this covenant that was written down by your prophets. O Lord, allow thy face to shine upon thy people, and hear our plea. Hear and do, O Lord, and hide not thy face from us, for we need you so very much at this hour. Peace be unto you. Okay. So with that being said, we'll read a song right quick. Okay. I'll read Psalms 2. It says, why do the heathen rage? Why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? Kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, let us break their bands asunder, cast away their cord from us. He that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh, and the Lord shall have them in derision. Then shall he speak unto them in the wrath, and vex them in his sore displeasure. Yet have I set my king upon my holy hill of Zion. I will deliver the decree. The Lord hath said unto me, thou art my son. This day have I begotten thee. Ask of me, and I will give thee the heathen for thine inheritance, and the uttermost parts of the earth for possession. Thou shalt break them with a rod of iron, and thou shalt dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel. Be wise now, therefore, O ye kings. Be instructed, ye judges of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear and rejoice with trembling. Kiss the Son, lest he be angry, and ye shall perish from the way when the wrath is kindled for a little while. Blessed are all they that put their trust in him. Okay, so that was Psalm 2, and I want to shed a light on this verse. Let me get verse 6 is, I'm going to read 6 and 7. It says, Yet have I set my king, this is the Lord of hosts talking, yet have I set my king upon the holy hill of Zion, and I will declare the decree. The Lord hath said unto me, David talking, Thou art my son, this day I have begotten thee. So when he says he set his king, the Lord said he set his king on Mount Zion. We can go to 2 Samuel right quick, and we'll see that. 1 Samuel. Go to 1 Samuel, chapter 16. 1 Samuel 16, chapter verse 1. It says, And the Lord of hosts said unto Samuel, How long wilt thou mourn for Saul, seeing I have rejected him from reigning over Israel? Fill thy horn with oil, and go. I will send thee to the Bethlehemite. Jesse, David's father, lived in Bethlehem, a Bethlehemite. For I have provided me, the Lord of hosts, a king among his sons. And so we know that's David. So that's what he's talking about in Psalms chapter 2, and verse 6, when he says, Yea, I have set my king upon my holy hill of Zion. So we go back to 1 Samuel 16 and 1 is what he's referring to. Any questions or comments? Okay. I got some current events here.
So at the same time that we are seeing an anthrax outbreak here in the United States, the CDC is also warning us of 9 additional states that are going through a salmonella outbreak. So today I want to break down what's going on, why this is, again, so troubling, why it's happening at this time, but what we could see moving forward. So all I ask is one thing, takes 2 seconds, go ahead, hit that like button if you enjoy these daily updates, and now let's begin. So it's crazy to think that all of a sudden we have an anthrax outbreak, we have a salmonella outbreak, but why are we getting all these outbreaks all of a sudden? Well, a few things are actually coming into play. Number one, we are actually seeing the CDC and other health organizations. They are now coming out and saying it's an outbreak a little premature. It's coming out a little bit early. The reason for that is because they're trying to get on the good side of the American people. They do not want something to spread so quickly before they can catch it and before they can actually give it a name, like an outbreak. Because when that happened before, the American people were a little concerned that why were health officials not coming forward and calling the whole COVID situation, right, calling it pandemic before it actually was. Now, second reason, it has to do with climate change. Now, I'm no expert. I'm not going to try to pretend to be an expert, but according to experts, yes, climate change will affect our country, will affect cattle, will affect chickens and everything in between. So we have to be well aware of that. But let's look at this. It says an egg brand recalled after salmonella outbreak sickens dozens of consumers in 9 states. That is according to the CDC. It says at least 65 people have been sickened by the recalled eggs. Now, this article was written yesterday. This has been going on for a couple of days. Now, the reason why I want to bring this to your attention today is because eggs are used in so many different things. Now, people eat eggs just as they are. They use eggs to make cake, use eggs in medicine, right? And I'm just telling you, this is what we know. Now, I want to read you a little bit of the recall first, and then we're going to get to what the CDC actually said on their website. Look at this right here. It says Milo's Poultry Farms, LLC, which is based in Bondwell, Wisconsin, has began recalling all eggs branded Milo's Poultry Farms and Tony's Fresh Market over a salmonella outbreak. That was announced just on Friday. So salmonella causes vomiting, dehydration, and fever, and can be deadly to children and senior citizens. According to the CDC, 65 consumers have become sick and 24 have been hospitalized and no deaths have been reported. That's the good news. Okay? Yes, 65 people have become sick, 24 hospitalized, 0 deaths. That's the key number. If that number starts to tick up, then the CDC is going to come out and they're going to say it's a bigger outbreak and there's going to be more recalls than just what we're seeing. But again, as of right now, the recall has been linked to 9 states. Okay, let's see what the CDC has to say. It says the CDC warns of recalled eggs sold in Illinois, Michigan, and Wisconsin. That's only 3, not 9, right? Well, let's get to the key points here. It says 65 people from 9 states have gotten sick from the same strain of salmonella. The 9 states include the 3 states where the eggs were sold. That's Illinois, Michigan, and Wisconsin. In addition to California, Colorado, Iowa, Minnesota, Utah, and Virginia. It says most people are from Wisconsin and Illinois. Those are the sick people. 42 from Wisconsin, 11 from Illinois. It says 24 people have been hospitalized and no deaths reported. Okay, that's good news. Now, let's get to this. The outbreak may be difficult to treat with some commonly recommended antibiotics and may require a different antibiotic choice for people who need them. Lab testing showed that salmonella making people sick is resistant to nalidixin acid and ciprofloxacin. This may make illnesses in this outbreak difficult to treat with some commonly recommended antibiotics and may require a different antibiotic choice for the people who need them. Okay. So again, if the certain strain of salmonella is resistant to the antibiotic or the medication that you're getting, well, what do you do there? That's the issue. Okay. And again, I want to be very clear on this. Salmonella isn't going to go from one person to the next. There's no human to human transmission. Okay. But here's the reason why it's such a big deal. What we've been seeing recently is some of these viruses, some of these, your father knows.
Okay, any comments on that? Question?
Shalom, everyone. I think it was another brand also besides Milo's. I want to say maybe it's called Tony's. Yes, Tony's Fresh Market branded eggs also was recalled. So
Okay.
yeah, so both
That's
of
the
those
name of the
things,
brand.
yeah, you got to be careful
That's
about.
the name of the brand?
Yes.
Okay.
Milo's Poultry Farms, yeah, and
Okay.
Tony's Fresh Market branded eggs, yes.
Okay. Yeah, so it's like right now, it looks like it's about 5 or 6 different outbreaks out there. So, I mean, if that ain't the hand of the Lord, I don't know what is. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Israel, once the high-flying startup nation, is now struggling to keep its economic boat from sinking. With funds drying up faster than the Negev desert and an economy that's hitting more bumps than a Tel Aviv street, many are asking, what on earth happened? In this video, we'll break down the key reasons behind Israel's recent financial freefall. If you want to check out all the facts we're mentioning, just head to the video description where we've included links to all the sources. Israel has officially taken the gold medal for being the most expensive country among OECD members, with a cost of living a whopping 38% above the average. Forget Paris or London. If you really want to empty your wallet, Tel Aviv's got you covered. Rising Israel to the Mediterranean dream of a finance mare. In short, the situation is spiraling, and the only thing growing faster than prices is public frustration.
Last weekend, Moody's, one of the three international credit rating agencies, downgraded Israel's credit rating from A1 to A2. Now, that's still investor grade, it's not junk, but it shows the strain that this war is putting on Israel's economy.
Foreign direct investment in Israel has recently taken a nosedive, especially in the high-tech sector, which, as we mentioned earlier, is currently failing like a malfunctioning app. In fact, high-tech investments plummeted by a whopping 68% in the first half of 2023 compared to the previous year. Now, sure, we can blame the global economy for some of this, but let's be honest. Israel's own political circus and economic instability have scared off foreign investors faster than you can say startup nation. It turns out, when your country feels like it's on shaky ground, so do the investors.
Israel's power grid, which has largely switched to natural gas, still depends on coal to supply demand. The biggest supplier of coal to Israel is Colombia, which announced that it would suspend coal shipments to Israel as long as the genocide was ongoing. After Colombia, the next two biggest suppliers are South Africa and Russia. Without reliable and continuous electricity, Israel will no longer be able to pretend to be a developed economy.
It's not just Israel's high-tech sector that's feeling the pinch. Many industries are waving the white flag. Take agriculture, for example. The war against Palestine has hit Israel's farmers harder than a drought. And the construction industry, let's just say it's not exactly building a bright future. Here's a jaw-dropping stat for you. Around 46,000 businesses have shut down in Israel since October 7th, and that number could balloon to 60,000 or more by the end of the year. It's like a game of dominoes, but with businesses. And spoiler alert, none of them are standing. Meanwhile, over at Israel's most important port, Port of Eilat, things are, well, sinking. Yemen's Houthi movement has been blockading the port since 2023, and in June 2024, the CEO officially waved the bankruptcy flag. And if you thought things couldn't get worse, Yemen and Iraq have been targeting other ports that Israel could have used. These blockages have cut into Israel's port revenue big time, making them feel like a ship without a sail. But wait, there's more. Israel's tourism industry, once a cash cow and political tool, has been grounded. Thanks to many airlines suspending flights last year, Israel's tourism numbers have nosedived. And here's why that's a double whammy. Tourism not only pumps money into the economy, but Israel uses it to prop up Zionist settlements in Palestine. According to Israel's Central Bureau of Statistics, only about 180,000 tourists visited Israel in the last quarter of 2023, a sharp decline from the 930,000 who visited during the same period in 2022. That's an 81.5% drop in just 1 year. Talk about a nosedive. It's clear Israel's economy is in a free fall, and there's no travel agent to book a safe landing.
Tourism is dead for obvious reasons. And then hospitality sector, right? Because people don't necessarily like to go out these days with a mood and the economic problems that they are facing.
Israel's economic growth is currently facing stagnation. While there were expectations of a comeback, the continued global uncertainties along with domestic policy mistakes have left the economy struggling with no hope. The government's focus on short-term political gains rather than solving systemic economic issues has led to a lack of confidence in the people of the government's ability to help the economy grow or restore it. The current government in Israel seems to be juggling priorities, but instead of focusing on the real economic fires, they're tossing breadcrumbs to a few select groups. Sure, Increasing allowances for certain populations might win some votes, but it's like putting a Band-Aid on a leaky boat. Meanwhile, the bigger issues like skyrocketing living costs and a sluggish economy are being left to fester. Critics are quick to point out that these short-term fixes are like using duct tape on a cracked windshield, temporary at best, disastrous at worst.
Okay, any comments on that? Looks like Israel not doing too good. Okay, no comment. Let me get this right here. Okay.
United Nations, a lot of people think about human rights. What I think about is the United Nations was created in San Francisco in 1945. If you think about how the world looked like in 1945, it was largely colonized, if not all. It was a small selective group of countries who created the UN, and it expanded over time, but it was never created to include African countries or certain countries of the global south. That was not their intention. It was not their intention for the human rights treaties to include us people.
As it stands right now, based on all what is happening in Africa, many Africans have come to the realization that the structure of the UN and certain global power dynamics have disproportionately affected African nations in a negative way, and this video will prove that. Before we dive into the details, have these few points behind your mind as you watch. When the United Nations was founded, most African countries were still under colonial rule by European powers. The initial structure of the UN reflected the interests of these colonial powers, and Africa had little representation in decision-making processes. Secondly, the UN Security Council's permanent member structure, excluding African countries, has been a point many overlook. And finally, the UN's role in fostering aid dependency rather than sustainable development just says it all. However, as I always say here on this channel, the narrative is changing. Listen to this and share your thoughts with us in the comments section.
Can I start?
Yes, you're free to start.
So I do want to set the record straight on one thing. We've heard a few times the sentence, we gained our independence, we were given independence, but actually that's not true. We were always independent. We were independent nations, we were independent people, and we regained our independence. And I think that's a crucial difference because something was taken away from us and we took back what was always ours. So I urge everyone to not talk from the perspective of, oh, we got our independence in 1965, or they gave us our independence. No, they actively came to our countries, took our independence away, they enslaved us, they colonized us, and we took it back. Regarding the topic of neocolonialism, I have a bit of an issue with the neo. Neo is Latin for new. There's, for me, nothing new about it. It's true what Mug said in the beginning, slavery and colonialism go hand in hand. And yes, it's true, it was an economic structure to enrich oneself, but there's nothing neo about it. What happened 200-300 years ago is still happening today, right? If we think about the United Nations, a lot of people think about human rights. What I think about is the United Nations was created in San Francisco in 1945. If you think about how the world looked like in 1945, it was largely colonized, if not all. It was a small selective group of countries who created the UN, and it expanded over time, but it was never created to include African countries or certain countries of the global south. That was not their intention. It was not their intention for the human rights treaties to include us people, right? So there is nothing neo about it. Same goes for institutions like the World Bank, IMF, even the European Union. And like you already said, they like our resources, but they don't like our people. And I think the war in Ukraine is a very good example of that, because what we saw is that When you're white, you get everything. When you're black, you don't get anything. I've been to those places. I've traveled to Ukraine, to the bordering countries, to help people of African descent. And what you saw is that all of a sudden we didn't need conferences, we didn't need so many debates. We could adopt laws within a week, not even, to grant people asylum, money, housing, schooling, you name it. But when it came to people of African descent, we took the humanity out of them. We called them third country nationals. Third country nationals. You're not a number. You're not a person. You're not someone who's traumatized, who fled away from something, right? You're a third country national. You're not number one. You are not number two. You are not number three. And that is still going on today.
And maybe to specify so that everyone can follow the third country national, you're referring to now are specifically people from the African continent who were in the Ukraine, and then the selection happening over there with people fleeing towards.
Yes and no. My personal work is only focusing on people of African descent, nothing more and nothing less. That's a deliberate choice that we made as an organization that I proudly stand for. The entire concept of third country nationals is, I would say, in a social sense, if you have a skin color that's not white. What we saw is that third country nationals also entail people from India, indeed African people. When the war in Ukraine started, what we saw, especially in the university areas, which are more towards the Russian border, is that they would queue people up based on their skin color. So if you were, let's say, someone from Morocco and very light skinned, you would place at front of the line. And if you're black, you would place at the end of the line. And that would determine the way how you would be evacuated, if at all.
I'm talking about, I said it at the beginning. It has nothing to do with culture. It has nothing to do with, how do you call this, history. It has to do with the future. How can Africa play a role in the world? Because at this moment, you can protect any culture you want in Africa, but our voice doesn't mean anything to nobody. So this is my priority. How can we turn Africa into a powerhouse in this world? Because we have a lot to offer to the world. That's the point. So the political unity of Africa is strategic to the survival of Africa. Like I said, if we don't reach this level, then we will end up with this genocide we are all afraid of. With our beautiful culture, our beautiful languages, we will not survive. So that's my point. We will not survive.
Okay, any comment? See that the UN was created to keep everything in place in colonized Africa. It shouldn't be a surprise. Okay. I'm gonna open it up for some questions, comments. Anybody have any questions or comments or anything they want to talk about they came across? Something they heard on this channel? Okay, play this right here and then we go into our book of Jasher. I thought this is pretty interesting. Like I said, you can see the hand of the Lord all over the place.
Trump is heading for trouble right now in terms of sanctions. We were there for 21 years. We say, "Aluta continua" to Burkina Faso. The new type of leaders we are looking for in Africa are not puppets of the West. We're looking for a new.
So what this video is about is the tide in Africa is turning because of this guy Tory. All the youth is starting to flock behind him, and those puppet leaders they have there, they're sitting on the edge of their seats because the people don't want to deal with them no more because they're looking at what Tory doing.
New breed of leaders. Ask Ruto if you don't think what I'm talking about. We tell you as leaders, stop being friends with these Americans. Stop it. Stop being friends with the British. We were there before. Honorable Hakainde, I'm saying this myself from my office with Maponga Jail. I'm not joking. There's not a single drop of gold that must leave Zambia ever again. Oh, here's the solution. We mine our gold, we take our gold to the Reserve Bank, and then we print kwachas equivalent to the gold that we have. That's the only way we can make a sustainable economy. There's no mathematics. Don't call accountants. Don't call them. They have failed to date. Now take science from a bushman. Take science from a caveman. Don't promise me and write me promissory notes when what you have promised me is not available. Simple solution. Put an embargo on gold. Zimbabwe has done it. Thumbs up. You may laugh as much as you want. It's a matter of time. You will know what I'm talking about.
Yes, this is a time for all Africans over the world to wake up. Greetings and welcome, kings and queens, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters in the continent, and to those who are in the diaspora. To this is saying,
Lusaka has the highest population on the page, and I would have been unfair to start these conversations anywhere else. It's Lusaka, then it's Pretoria, then it's Cape Town, then Durban. Zimbabwe does not even appear. It's working. It's just too negative there sometimes. They are my people, I know them. They are my people. They are politically confused. They can't discuss anything except ZANU-PF and CCC. That's all. And I'm not mixing my words, and I know it's on record. Zimbabweans, you need to pick up your conversation. There are more things happening in the world than ZANU-PF and CCC. We can talk about many other things. How many angels can dance at the sharpest point of the needle? And many other theologies. But having said that, I really appreciate you as Zambia, and sit up straight as we do our final conclusion on the rewiring and rewriting of the African in the 21st century. I will say that the statements, I think you've followed. But you have not yet even grown.
Stop paying for investment courses.
Hannah, who is mocked and ridiculed for being barren, and she goes to the house of the Lord to pray for a child. And when she receives the child, little did God and the priest know she did not need the child. The child was for God. That which she needed the most was not for her, but for the one who would give it to her. Then in the opening of the passage it says, and Hannah went to the house of the Lord. Underline that part on chapter 1. And on chapter 2, Hannah was pregnant. Somewhere on verse 21 there, then it says, and the Lord visited Hannah. She had number 2. And the Lord visited Hannah. She had number 3. And the Lord visited Hannah. She had number 4. And the Lord visited Hannah. She had number 5. Hannah ended up with 6 children, but she only prayed for 1. Oh, come on, someone ask me what's happening here. Ask me what's happening here. There are certain prayers you only need to pray once, and God will visit you 5 times more. Do the first thing right, and give God an assignment to constantly be at your door. So do you need some more? Do you need some more? Do you need some more? And I think Hannah is the only woman I respect. When she was disciplining her children, she had no problem with them. She said, I will send you back where I asked you from. Activate your blessings. Activate your blessings, number 8, by interacting with those that are giving you the blessings. Life is about rituals. If you have your blessings from the devil, keep those rituals alive. Those things will kill you. If you have your blessings from your ancestors, keep those rituals alive, or the ancestors will not be happy with you. If you get your blessings from God, keep God happy, or else he will kill you also. If you have them from the devil, keep the devil happy. But whoever is blessing you, come on, have a life of rituals. For rituals are the diet of the spirit. Women will deliver children, and the chitenges will be put on their stomachs, and they'll be tied on their stomachs, tied for 2, 3, 4 weeks until the stomach falls back. Fancy about Gucci. Don't buy brands. Own them. Don't buy brands. Own.
Okay. Any comments on that? Questions, comments? Okay. I'm gonna go to the book of Joshua. Nobody have no comments. And I'm in chapter 20. Okay. It says, and at that time Abraham journeyed from the plain of Mamre, and he went to the land of the Philistines, and he dwelt in Gerar. And he was 25. He was 25, and in the 25th year of Abraham's being in the land of Canaan, and the 100th year of his life of Abraham, that he came to Gerar in the land of the Philistines. And when he entered the land, he said to Sarah his wife, "Say thou art my sister to anyone that shall ask thee, in order that we may escape the evil of the inhabitants of the land." And as Abraham was dwelling in the land of Philistines, the servants of Amalek, king of the Philistines, saw that Sarah was exceedingly beautiful, and they asked Abraham concerning her, and he said, "She is my sister." And the servants of Amalek went to Amalek, saying, "A man from the land of Canaan is come to dwell in the land, and he has a sister that is exceedingly fair." And Abraham heard the words of his servant, who praised Sarah to him. And Amalek sent his officers, and they brought Sarah to the king. And Sarah came to the house of Amalek, and the king saw that Sarah was beautiful, and she pleased him exceedingly. And he approached her and said to her, "What is this man to thee, with whom thou didst come to our land?" And Sarah answered and said, "He is my brother, and he came from the land of Canaan to dwell wherein we should find a place." And Amalek said to Sarah, "Behold, my land is before thee. Place thy brother in any part of this land that pleases thee, and it will be our duty to exalt and elevate him above all the people of the land, since he is thy brother." And Amalek sent for Abraham, and Abraham came to Amalek. And Amalek said to Sarah, "Behold, I have given orders that thou shalt be honored as thou desired on account of thy sister Sarah." And Abraham went forth from the king, and the king's presence followed him. And at the eventide, before men lie down to rest, the king was sitting upon his throne, and a deep sleep fell upon him. And he lay upon the throne, and he slept till morning. And he dreamed that an angel of the Lord came to him with a sword drawn in his hand. And the angel stood over Amalek, and he wished to slay him with his sword. And the king was terrified in his dream, and said to the angel, "And what have I sinned against thee, that thou comest to slay me with thy sword?" And the angel answered and said to Amalek, "Behold, thou diest on account of the woman which thou didst yesternight bring to thy house. For she is a married woman, and the wife of Abraham, who came to thy house. Now therefore return that man his wife." excuse me, it says, okay, let me get where I was at. It says, and the angel answered and said to Amalek, this 20 and 14, behold, thou did it on account of the woman which thou diest, on account of the woman which thou didst yesternight bring to thy house. For she is a married woman, the wife of Abraham, who came to thy house. Now therefore return that man his wife, for she is his wife. And should thou not return her, know that thou wilt surely die, thou and all belongeth to thee. And on that night there was a great outcry in the land of Philistines, and the inhabitants of the land saw the figure of a man standing with a drawn sword in his hand, and he smote the inhabitants of the land with a sword. Yea, he continued to smite them, and the angel of the Lord smote the whole land of the Philistines on that night, and there was a great confusion on that night and on the following morning, and every wound was closed, and all their issue, and the hand of the Lord was upon them on account of Sarah, wife of Abraham, whom Amalek had spoken. So we see right here, when we can be talking about the hand of the Lord, but we see right here, it's a good example. Okay, 18. And in the morning, Amalek rose up with terror and confusion and with great dread, and he sent and had his servants called in, and he related his dream to them, and the people was greatly afraid. And one man standing among the servants of the king answered the king, saying, O sovereign king, restore this woman to her husband, for he is her husband. For the like happened to a king in Egypt, when this man came to Egypt. Okay, okay. And one man standing amongst the servants of the king, I read that, said, and he said concerning his wife, she is my sister, for such is his manner of doing when he cometh to dwell in the land in which she is a stranger. And the Pharaoh sent and took this woman for the Pharaoh sent and took this woman for a wife, and the Lord brought upon him grievous plagues until he returned the woman to her husband. Now therefore, O servant of the king, know what happened yesternight to the whole land. There was a very great consternation and great pain and lamentations, and we know that it was on account of the woman which thou didst take. Now therefore restore this woman to her husband, lest it should befall us as it did to the Pharaoh king of Egypt and his servants, and that we may not die. And Amalek hastened and called and had Sarah called for her, and she came before him, and he had Abraham called for her, and he came before him. And Amalek said to them, what is this work you have done, that you have been doing and saying, you and your brother, you are brother and sister, and I took this woman for a wife? And Abraham said, because I thought I should suffer death on account of my wife. And Amalek took flocks and herds, men servants and maid servants, and thousands of pieces of silver, and he gave them to Abraham, and he returned Sarah to him. And Amalek said to Abraham, behold, the whole land is before thee, dwell in it, whether thou should choose. And Abraham and Sarah his wife went forth from the king's presence with honor and respect, and they dwelt in the land, even in Gerar. And all the inhabitants of the land of Philistines and the king's servants were still in pain through the plagues which the angel had inflicted upon them the whole night on account of Sarah. And Amalek sent for Abraham, saying, pray now for thy servants to the Lord thy God, that he may put away this morality from among us. And Abraham prayed on account of Amalek and his subjects. And the Lord heard the prayer of Abraham, and he healed Amalek and all his subjects. Okay, so that was chapter 20. Anybody have any comments on that? Okay, so what I just realized is it used to have me confused, but I see what's going on now. If you notice right here, those are two different stories. When Abraham went to Gerar, and he chose Sarah to tell Amalek that he was Abraham's sister. So he did the same thing happened in Egypt, and and now looking at that, we see now how Abraham got so wealthy, because it wasn't just one incident right here with Amalek, because you notice this is in Gerar, but Abraham, the same thing happened in Egypt, and the reason how you know that was Pharaoh, when he gave Abraham a bunch of substance, he also gave him Hagar. But this man right here, he's not Egyptian, he's a Philistine. So it's two different incidences. And then you also have the incident where Isaac came to Gerar too. But Abraham ended up in Egypt, and the Pharaoh took Sarah, and then this guy right here, Amalek, took Sarah also. And both times they ended up giving him great substance to leave. Okay, no comments. Okay, chapter 21. I'm gonna read one more chapter and then close out. Okay, and it was at that time, at the end of the year, and 4 months of Abraham dwelling in the land of Philistines in Gerar, that God visited Sarah, and the Lord remembered her, and she conceived and bore a son to Abraham. And Abraham had the son which was born to him, which Sarah bore to him, Isaac, named him Isaac. And Abraham, so see right here, well, Ishmael already born. So Ishmael's mother is Hagar, which came from the Pharaoh, gave her to him. And I think Ishmael is already about 12 years old. So we know it's another event happened. Okay, 2. Abraham called the name of his son, which he was born to him, which Sarah bore to him, Isaac. And Abraham circumcised his son Isaac at 8 days old, as God had commanded Abraham to do unto his seed after him. And Abraham was 100, Sarah was 90 years old when Isaac was born to them. And the child grew up, and he was weaned. And Abraham made a great feast upon the day of Isaac, the day that Isaac was weaned. And Shem and Eber, and all the great people of the land, and Amalek, king of the Philistines, and his servants, and Pisgah, the captain of his host, came to eat and drink and rejoice at the feast which Abraham made upon the day of his son Isaac being weaned. So we see right here, Shem and Eber is alive. So they got a place where they dwell at. So, like I said before, it's in Shalom. That's who the king of Shalom is, which is Melchizedek. Right here. Shem, verse 6. Also Terah, the father of Abraham, and Nahor, his brother, came from Haran. See that? They and all belonged to them, and they greatly rejoiced on hearing that a son had been born to Sarah. So not only was Shem when he got circumcised or weaned, but Shem and Eva was there. Nahor and Terah. They don't tell us that in the New Testament. 7. And they came to Abraham, and they ate and drank at the feast of Abraham made upon the day of Isaac being weaned. And Terah and Nahor rejoiced with Abraham, and they remained with him many days in the land of the Philistines. And at that time, Sarah, the son of Reuel, died in the first year of the birth of Isaac, son of Abraham. And all the days of Sarah was 239 years, and he died. And Ishmael, the son of Abraham, was grown up in those days. He was 14 years old, so he's 14 years older than Isaac. It was Sarah bore Isaac to Abraham. And God was with Ishmael, the son of Abraham, and he grew up and he learned to use the bow, and he became an archer. And when Isaac was 5 years old, he was sitting with Ishmael at the door of the tent. And Ishmael came to Isaac and seated himself opposite him, and he took the bow and drew it and put the arrow in it and intended to slay Isaac. And Sarah saw the act which Ishmael desired to do to her son Isaac, and it grieved her exceedingly on account of her son. And she sent for Abraham and said to him, Cast out of this bondwoman and her son, for her son shall not be heir with my son, for thus did he seek to do unto him this day. And Abraham hearkened to the voice of Sarah, and he rose up early in the morning, and he took 12 loaves and a bottle of water, which he gave to Hagar, and he sent her away with her son. And Hagar went with her son to the wilderness, and they dwelt in the wilderness of Paran with the inhabitants of the wilderness. And Ishmael was an archer, and he dwelt in the land, in the wilderness, a long time. And he and his mother afterwards went to the land of Egypt, and they dwelt there. And Hagar took a wife for her son from Egypt, and her name was Meribah. And the wife of Ishmael conceived and bore 4 sons, 2 daughters. And Ishmael and his mother and his wife and his children dwelt afterwards went and returned to the wilderness. And they made themselves tents in the wilderness in which they dwelt. And they continued to travel, and then to rest monthly and yearly. And God gave Ishmael flocks and herds and tents on account of Abraham his father. And the man increased in cattle. And Ishmael dwelt in the desert in a tent, traveling and resting for a long time. And he did not see the face of his father. And then some time afterwards, Abraham said to Sarah his wife, I will go and see my son Ishmael, for I have a desire to see him, for I have not seen him for a long time. And Abraham rode upon one of his camels to the wilderness to seek his son Ishmael. And he heard that he was dwelling in tents in the wilderness with all belonging to him. And Abraham went to the wilderness and reached the tents of Ishmael about noon. And he asked after Ishmael, and he found the wife of Ishmael sitting in a tent with her children, and Ishmael and her husband and her mother were not with them. And Abraham asked the wife of Ishmael, saying, Where has Ishmael gone? And she said, He has gone to the field to hunt. And Abraham was still mounted upon the camel, and he would not get off to the ground, as he had sworn to his wife Sarah that he would not get off his camel. And Abraham said to Ishmael his wife, My daughter, give me a little water that I may drink, for I am fatigued from journey. And Ishmael's wife answered and said to Abraham, We have neither water nor bread. And she continued sitting in the tent and did not notice Abraham, neither did she ask him who he was. But she was beating her children in the tent, and she was cursing them. And she also cursed her husband Ishmael and reproached him. And Abraham heard the words of Ishmael's wife to her children, and he was very angry and displeased. And Abraham called to the woman to come out to him from the tent. And the woman came and stood outside, opposite Abraham, while Abraham was still mounted upon the camel. And Abraham said to Ishmael's wife, when thy husband Ishmael returneth home, say these words to him. A very old man from the land of Philistines came hither to seek thee, and thus was his appearance and figure. I did not ask him who he was, and seeing that thou was not here, he spake unto me and said, when Ishmael thy husband returneth, tell him, thus did this man say, when thou comest home, put away this nail of thy tent, which thou hast placed here, and place another nail in its stead. And Abraham finished his instructions to the woman, and he turned and went off on the camel homeward. And after Ishmael came from the chase, he and his mother, and returned to the tent, his wife spake these words unto him. The very old man from the land of Philistines came to seek thee, and thus his appearance and figure. And I did not ask him who he was. And seeing thou was not at home, he said to me, when thy husband cometh home, tell him, thus said the old man, put away the nail of the tent, which thou hast placed here, and place another nail in the stead. Okay? And Ishmael heard the words of his wife, and he knew that it was his father, and that his wife did not honor him. And Ishmael understood his father's words that he had spoken to his wife. And Ishmael hearkened to the voice of his father. And Ishmael cast out that woman, and she went away. And Ishmael afterwards went to the land of Canaan, and he took another wife, and he brought her to his tent to place where he had dwelt. And at the end of 3 years, Abraham said, I will go again and see Ishmael my son, for I have not seen him for a long time. And he rode upon his camel, went to the wilderness, and he reached the tent of Ishmael about noon. And he asked after Ishmael, and his wife came out of the tent, and she said, he is not here, my lord, for he has gone to hunt in the fields and to feed the camel. And the woman said to Abraham, turn in, my lord, into the tent, and eat a morsel of bread, for thy soul must be weary on account of the journey. And Abraham said to her, I will not stop, for I am in haste to continue my journey, but give me a little water to drink, for I have thirst. And the woman hastened and ran into the tent, and she brought out water and bread to Abraham, which she placed before him, and she urged him to eat. And he ate and drank, and his heart was comforted, and he blessed his son Ishmael. And he finished his meal, and he blessed the Lord. And he said to Ishmael's wife, when Ishmael cometh home, say these words to him. The very old man from the land of Philistine came thither and asked after thee, and thou wast not here. And I brought him out bread and water, and he ate and he drank, and his heart was comforted. And he spake these words to me. And when Ishmael thy husband cometh home, say unto him, the nail of the tent which thou hast is very good. Do not put it away from the tent. And Abraham finished commanding the woman, and he rode off to his home to the land of Philistines. And when Ishmael came to his tent, his wife went forth to meet him with joy and a cheerful heart. And she said to him, an old man came here from the land of the Philistines, and thus was his appearance. And he asked after thee, and thou wast not here. So I brought out bread and water, and he ate and drank, and his heart was comforted. And he spake these words to him, when Ishmael thy husband cometh home, say to him, the nail of the tent which thou hast is very good. Do not put it away from the tent. And Ishmael knew that it was his father, that his wife had honored him, and the Lord blessed his meal. Okay, any comments on that? Questions? One of the things about that story right there that intrigued me is the fact that if you look at that, you can see the same thing happened when the angels came. Genesis 18. When they came to Abraham, Abraham did the same thing that he was requiring of those women. He came out and he greeted them and then gave them water, and then they sit on the tree and ate with him. And then they went on their journey. Same thing by here with Abraham. Same thing happened. She came out, gave him bread and water, he ate, and then he went on his way, his journey. That was the custom. Anybody have any other questions, comments before we go? No question? Okay. So with that being said, I'm gonna say shalom, shalom, and another shalom. I'll see y'all tomorrow for our reading through the Tanakh. Shalom.
Shalom, everyone.